Akademiks can't ride no wave.
Jane Doe. Okay? All right. Let me get in the game. All right, cool. All right. So before the jury came in, they said the judge is asking about things that's going to be used. They said, what about a screenshot of the text between Ms. Ventura and Ms. Karam? Shapiro says, only the text should be admitted, not the photo. The AUSA says the jurors should only know that it's a screenshot, not it's a text, okay? AUSA says my error was only looking at the first message. I apologize. The judge says you made like screenshots as opposed to text. The AUSA says we. The judge says I'm not done. AUSA says I'm sorry for interrupting you. The judge says I understand. I'm just not sure this is the hill you want to die on. And then Driscoll pops in. By the way, Driscoll is someone we haven't seen talk to any witnesses, but Driscoll is one of the, I think probably the 7th or 8th lawyer that's on Diddy's team. If we had to, remember I ranked the lawyers yesterday. I said Nicole Westmoreland is batting 1,000 right now. Nicole Westmoreland, Brian Steele, Tanny Garagos. We got Anastevio. Then we got Mark Agnifilo. We have Xavier Donaldson. Who else? Obviously Driscoll. That's 7 already. So I've named 7 lawyers, right? It's in their opening. They attacked Jane's credibility. They called it consensual. Okay, that's what the AUSA says. And as you heard yesterday, Jane says she feels coerced. Now, why they're doing this is that when y'all listen to me read Jane Doe, aka 50 Cent's baby mom's testimony yesterday, sounded like she was saying she enjoyed this shit. She said she liked it. She thought it was taboo, but she wanted to make him happy. It was only at the end of her testimony yesterday she started saying, which by the way I thought it was a bad time to break, because everything she said didn't describe her as the victim. Only at the end of the testimony, at the end of the day, did she say, oh, yeah, I did the freak-offs willingly at first to make him happy, but at some point, he wanted to do too many freak-offs all the time, and I wasn't with it, okay? So let's go. So Driscoll says the government sent us 6 years, okay, of text messages. Then they somewhat reduced them. We stand by our objections. The foundation has not been laid. Judge says the government should lay the foundation. Johnson says we have laid it. Judge says bring in the jury and the witness. Comey says good morning, and she's now talking to 50 Cent's baby mama, Daphne Joy. Good morning. How many times did you travel to Las Vegas? Jane says once on Sean's plane. He was hosting an event. Then he wanted entertainment for the night. We had that. He said, what do you mean by entertainment? He said, and entertained. We had sex. That's what Jane Doe says, okay? 50 Cent's baby mom. AUSA says, what did going off the grid mean? Getting free. Did Sean call you a freak? Jane says, yes, he wanted me to be wild and sexual. Did Sean, or did you ask Sean if the entertainers could wear condoms? She says, yes. The first time with Don and another, Sean guilt-tripped me out of it. It wasn't something he wanted to see. So Diddy didn't want to see the male performers with condoms. Comey says, what was his tone? Condescending. AUSA says, did he say why he didn't want the entertainers to wear condoms? By the way, let me tweet this out, chat. Let's tweet this out. Let's tweet this out, chat. Hold on, Lee. All right, man. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Somebody said check Fifth's page. What Fifth say? Did Fifth say anything else? Give me a second. 50 Cent baby mama testifies. Okay. Oh, that's what happened. Y'all can't hear that. I know it. Okay, I see what happened, chat. I had motherfuckers out by the pool. They out there just in their birthday suit. And I think my landscapers came by because like nobody could see you normally. But the landscapers came by like, what the fuck is going on? So I guess that's why they come on. Anyway, all right, I see what's going on. Yeah, today's Friday. It's landscaper day. Okay. All right, cool. I tweeted out. Here we go. AUSA Comey. It says, what did you mean? So, entertained, we had sex. It said, what do you mean going off the grid? It was getting free. Did Sean call you a freak? Yup. He wanted me to be wild and sexual. Did you ask Sean if the entertainers could wear condoms? Yes, the first time with Don and another. Sean guilt tripped me out of it. It wasn't something he wanted to see. Comey says, what was his tone? He was condescending. Did he say why he didn't want the entertainer to wear a condom? He just didn't want to see a rubber. Did you raise it ever when sober and not in the hotel room? She says, yes. Says, was this ever recorded? She says, yes, one that I'm aware of. I'm trying to ask the entertainer if he could wear a condom, and the dude says he's looking for it. Yo, this is nasty work. Comey says, I would like to call this exhibit with an 8. Did you listen to this? Jane says, yes. AUSA says, and did you read the transcript that's up on the screen? Jane says, yes. Comey says, let's start at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. When you said, I think they've in their chair, what were you referred to? So I guess she was saying, no, we do got condoms, nigga. So I guess she's trying to request the guy wear a condom. Diddy don't want a condom because he got the Astroglide just whacking it. And she's like, oh, you don't got a condom? There's some condoms over there, trying to get the nigga to wear a condom. AUSA says, what did you understand what Sean meant when he said you were just taking that dick? Jane says that we already had interscope. Oh no, not interscope. Intercourse. Comey then says, and when he said if you don't touch yourself right now, what was he saying? To just move on. AUSA says, why did you think you needed permission from Sean for the man to have sex with your body? Wait, why did you think you needed permission from Sean for the man having sex with your body to wear a condom? They say objection, overruled. They have a sidebar, sure. Holy shit, okay. They're come back, or if they've came back. By the way, let's go look at 50 Cent's. Oh my God, I'm all over the place today, chat. Well, I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place, huh? 50 Cent, here we go. Okay, here we go. This is how they drew 50 Cent baby mom. He said, hey, does anyone know who Jane Doe is? I'm trying to research this. Man, this stuff with Elon and Trump too is crazy. No, 50's comedy. 50's comedy. Does anybody know who Jane Doe is? 50 is comedy. 50 is comedy. And I love 50. Nah, he's comedy though. He's comedy. He's comedy. That nigga is comedy. Hold on, give me a second. Why 50 do that, bro? He said, "Do y'all know who Jane Doe is?" And then the next slide, he put his baby moms. Chat, is this an L for 50? We gotta run a poll. Is this an L for 50? Because 50 did pick this woman to be the mother of his child, and now she's getting freaked off for $750 a day by Diddy, his arch nemesis. Okay, let's get back to it though. They're back. He said, "Why didn't you say no?" Okay. She said he'd get agitated. He said, how would intercourse with an entertainer end? He'd finish on me. Then what would happen with Sean? Well, after the dude finished on her, she says she would have sex with Sean. How would you clean up? He said, would you clean up the man's cum on you? She says, no. She says, why not? Sean liked it. He liked to play around with it. Holy shit, bumbo cloud. I told you this body fish. Hold on, I gotta send me this. Send me these 2 tweets. Memes. Grand or chat niggas. Send me these 2 tweets. I need them for the Instagram and a Twitter post. I gotta clown him. Sean liked it. Liked to play around it because I told niggas that Diddy was gay. Everybody was like, how is he gay? Just because he like nut rubbed on his nipples? I'm like, yes, that's how he's gay. That's how he's fucking gay. Fucking gay. Ain't nothing wrong with being gay, but he's fucking gay. Everybody was like, that don't really mean he's gay. He's not really fucking the men. Then you get niggas like Vlad, love Vlad, but Vlad's like, how do we really know Diddy's gay? We never heard of him fucking a guy. You don't need to fuck a guy to be gay. You're playing around with semen. You're rubbing it on your nipples. You're fucking gay, okay? I'm sorry. You're gay. Says Sean liked it. He liked to play around with it. And then what? Here's my thing that's like tripping me out about like even Diddy doing that. Like, did Diddy have a medical condition? Did Diddy not realize he also produces semen himself? why didn't he play with his own semen? Like, it's confusing to me why Diddy, well, I don't know. I guess you could say that about every gay guy, right? Be like, don't you have a dick? Why are you obsessed with somebody else with a dick, right? Yeah, I guess I'm asking a stupid question. Okay, I'm asking a stupid question. Yeah, a gay nigga just likes gay shit, right? Because I'm just thinking, bro, you could ejaculate yourself and play around with your own semen if you just like playing around with semen, but that's not the real thing. The real thing is that this motherfucker likes the ejaculation of other men. That's what it is. It says, so it says, why not? Sean liked it. He likes to play around it. Then what? Said, I'll take a shower and get ready for the next one. Bumbleclot. What? The next one? Yo, she said she would take a shower and get ready for the next one, like the next nigga. Typically, how many rounds would you go? Objection. That was overruled. Jane says every entertainer was different. Sometimes it was 3. So sometimes niggas would like nut 3 times on her. Okay. Not 3 different niggas. It says would decide. It says who would decide if you could stop or when you were tired? She starts crying. She's like, Diddy. So she says, Sean. She said, do you need a moment? She's crying. She says, I'm sorry. What was your question? She says, how did you say you wanted to stop? Jane says, I would say I'm hungry. I would make little faces. Jane says, I'd send him subtle cues. Comey says, that's the AUSA. What would he say? He'd say, you're not getting tired on me, are you? Let's go out on a high note. Let's finish strong. Yo, Diddy was a fucking coach. Yo, let's finish strong, yo. Yo, let's get this nut up on out of this nigga. Come on now. It's like a football coach. You know? When you hit that hole, just make sure you hold the ball and just finish up strong. God damn. What would Sean give you to keep you awake and having sex with the entertainers? She says ecstasy. Comey says, did you ever cry after one of these hotel nights? She says twice. Tell us about the first time you cried. I thought it was a date night, a one-on-one. But he said there would be an entertainer, but just a quick one. I hung on to that, but for 18 hours. What? After 18 hours and 3 rounds with the entertainer, Sean said he had to leave. I started crying. Comey says, were you with someone else? Jane says, I was with Sean. Wow. So 18 hours with the guy, 3 rounds. Diddy says, all right, yo, listen, I got to call. I got to leave. So you could imagine these women are doing this thing supposedly to pleasure Diddy, but essentially at some point, Diddy would like not, you know, it's interesting the dichotomy of the freak off. They're having sex with other men for Diddy's enjoyment, but they want to make Diddy happy so much. Their enjoyment is that after Diddy gets his little kink out, they would have sex with Diddy and they would be like, oh, okay. All right, everything is good because now I fucked Diddy and he's good and he's happy, sexually satisfied. She feels kind of empty after she fucks an entertainer for 18 hours. And when Diddy was supposed to fuck her, he tells her, I got to run. And that probably, caused an emotional response. So she started crying. So were you with someone else? Jane says, I was with Sean. It was in the Waldorf of Beverly Hills in the early of our relationship. He said, what did Sean say? Jane says, he said, are you crying? Like he was looking disgusted at me. Then he just sat there listening to music. I was clinging to him. He said he could move things around with his family and I could go home with him. I just wanted to be in his arms after all that. Comey says, and after the second time, Jane says, I was in the shower after one of those nights. So I guess, the second time she was crying, she was in the shower after she just got boned and piped out by all these men. And she starts stuttering and AOSA says, is your memory spotty? What do you remember? She says, I was so high. Like I was having sex with Paul. Then I was in the shower with Sean. He said, stop it. I'm too high. Stop. He said, Paul? Who's Paul? So Paul's one of the entertainers. So were there hotel nights? Were these hotel nights work for you? So they're almost asking her like, are you a sex worker? Okay? They're literally just asking her that. Okay? Were hotel nights work? Did you consider it a job? Like you had to do fucking? Objection. It got overruled. She says, yeah, it was work from start to finish. 50 was right. She's a little sex worker. 50 was right. 50 was right. 50 was right, bro. Damn, it was work from start to finish. What did you do to get them to end sooner? I try to have sex with the entertainers fast. So what did you do to speed things up? I do foreplay and I bring them into the room. Sean would say, slow it down, girl. Slow it down, baby girl. More foreplay. What words would he use? It's objection, time frame. So that's fair. It says, remember she says early in the relationship. May to October 2023. So AUSA says May 2021 to October 2023. What would Sean say? Jane says he'd say, I'm not ready to see that yet. So I guess when she was trying to rush to fuck because she wants it to be over because she's like, all right, if I fuck quickly, it's over quickly. Diddy would say, no, slow it down, baby girl. Slow it down. Defense asks for a sidebar. The judge says, sure. Holy. They come back again. Comey says, how did you feel? Jane says, I just wanted to be with Sean at the end. Said, where would you go? I would go to his residence. He said, was any part of these hotel nights you enjoyed? She said, yes, just being with Sean. Comey says, would he text him? I don't know who that. Are they saying, did he text the sex workers? I don't know. I guess, or what would you text him? Maybe that was the thing. Jane says, yeah, I would text him to say I love you. So did you text him that you wanted to have sex? Jane says, yes, I would text him that I wanted to have sex, but with him. AUSA says, did you ever text him that you ever wanted to have sex with others? Jane says, yeah, I did. Oh my God, that's a freak. That's a freak. But again, remember, this is under the context of this is a woman who supposedly is victimized. She never really wanted to have sex with other people, but she basically is claiming that she would indulge in Diddy's fantasy to the point she would text Diddy to say, who you want me to fuck today type shit, you know? Wow. She said, yes, I would text him and say I wanted to have sex with others because it was his fantasy. Said, did you tell you wanted to text? Huh? Yes. Did he tell you what to text? Yes. I guess she was texting the sex workers. He asked, what do you want? Be explicit. AUSA says, why did you write these things? He says, I wanted to make my lover happy. Says, look at this one from November 9th, 2021. What did you write? She said, I wrote, I'm horny for you. Comey says, you don't have to read it, but you did write it. You wrote, I want to suck Paul's dick. Why did you write that? So I guess she texted Diddy that she want to suck Paul's dick. They're asking her, why'd you write that message? She says, I knew me saying that. I knew it would turn Diddy on. Who was Paul? An entertainer. They've asked that twice now. You've texted him that you wanted to stop having hotel nights, right? She says, yes. Comey says, what did you write here? Jane says, I'm so much more than being left in a dark room. My heart is breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. I feel it's the only reason you pay for the house. We need to talk like adults. Comey says, how long had, the things, chat, this is the thing about entertainment, man. Anytime, ooh, okay. My favorite type of text is right here. Ooh, Lee. That's a business text. It says, send me your wire info. I like that a lot. Anyway, are they arresting somebody in regards to Skrilla's shooting? We'll get to it. Cool. So. The things you see some of these women who live this extravagant lifestyle, this is what I always tell people who are regular. I was having a conversation with a group of people the other day, and they were telling me, they said, you're living the life. And I was saying to them, I'm like, no, we're all human. Happiness is something that is forever fleeting and we're always chasing no matter what you have. If you have money, you start looking at other things. If you don't have money, you then chase money. You think money is happiness. When you get money, it's something else. You think it's family, you get family, then it's happiness is something that's forever fleeting. And their thing to me was like, you know what? Well, you're saying this from a place of privilege because you have money. And I said to them, I'm like, listen, what a lot of people don't realize is that once once you check that box of having money or you live whatever lifestyle, you realize like it's the simple things that really like, it's like lack of family. Like I wish I had a son. Real talk. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because I think a lot of times when people look at these entertainers or these influencers' lifestyle, and let's go to 50 Cent's baby mama, for example, right? I know a lot of people who would look at her lifestyle, Daphne Joy, and they would say, it looks so glamorous. But the shit that these people do to maintain that lifestyle and to keep the lifestyle going on, like when you look at this, you're like, oh, yo, she gotta be, it gotta be a blast. Like, and I'll give you another story. I'll make it real quick. Who's PJ Washington's like new girl? PJ Washington girlfriend. Okay, this girl right here. I've heard several women tell me she's living the life. Like women like this girl. I don't know who she is, but she's PJ Washington's new girl. And apparently she does a really good job of showing people her life. And other women just envy it. And they're like, oh, damn, she got everything that makes someone happy. Now, remember what I said about happiness, right? Number one, it's usually a facade and it's always fleeting. So people look at this woman and they're like, yo, he's always... Like, she has the perfect man, she has this, she has the car, she has whatever. And the reality is that Instagram is a facade. And we've seen this in a case earlier with I believe it was Mia, right? Where Mia basically said, yeah, Instagram, that wasn't really my true reality. I really say that to say, when you see some of these influencers and you're seeing all the lifestyle they're living like Daphne Joy, you got to think about how many pints of piss, how much ounces of semen they have, digested to get there. That's what it was. She literally was doing these things, no matter how good this looks online. She was doing things to maintain a lifestyle. She was sucking dick. She was getting peed on. She was getting ran through by multiple people. Now, when you don't understand that context of why she's getting what she's getting, you're going to sit back and you're going to just look at the lifestyle like, oh my God, look at this house. And you're going to be like, yo, damn. If only I could get a house like that. If you a nigga with semen from other men. So that's the interesting part. And I know I probably went on this little, I didn't need to go on this little exit route in terms of trying to make a point here. But it just kind of shows how dark her life was. Like her life at that point, she is fucking and doing whatever Diddy wants to maintain a lifestyle that she probably felt like she was imprisoned by at that point. Because here's the thing. I always say this about men and women. Most men, so I'm speaking in generalities. Men never downgrade sexually. Women never downgrade lifestyle-wise. So when you were with 50, you got treated to a certain type of lifestyle. It's impossible for her to go down. She don't want to go down and now have to, get a job, right? Think about this. She's doing all these things. She just didn't want to get a job. She wanted a sugar daddy. She probably it was more than a sugar daddy because she looks beautiful. It's probably a bunch of dudes who would pay her some money or pay her rent. She wanted a lit guy. She wanted a guy in the music industry. She probably was attracted to some of that fanfare that came along with it. And you get to see she was down to do a lot to keep that lifestyle, okay? I'm sorry I went on that little detour, but here we go. So she texted Diddy, I'm so much more than being left in the dark of a hotel room. My heart is breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. I feel it's the only reason you pay for the house. So she's acknowledging the only reason why you paid for my house is because I keep doing these free calls for you. We got to talk like adults. So how long has he been paying for your rent? 5 months or so. AUSA says, did you see drugs in the hotel rooms? They objected. It was overruled. James that says, yeah, there was ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, pink powder. I think that's called Tusi. Says, who gave the drugs to you? She said, Sean. Comey says, did you ever see any of the entertainers? Okay, I can't see that. Yeah, ever seen any of the entertainers taking drugs? Jane says, no. That was my one rule. I told them they couldn't take drugs, the entertainers, the escorts. I didn't want them to be out of control when they were with me. It's kind of interesting because she's kind of delicate. She kind of comes off a little bit like, very, remember, she's in her 30s. She's not like Cassie, just, let's get lit. Like, no. She's a little bit womanly, but she's doing these things, and she claims Diddy's teaching her new things, but she didn't want, like, dirty sex. You could tell. She was like, could they use condoms? Diddy was like, ain't no fucking condoms up in my freak off. Fuck a condom, right? Then she would basically prevent them from doing drugs that, they wouldn't probably get aggressive with her or start doing things that could make it out of control, because sometimes, drunk sex or high sex could be a little bit different, right? AUSA Comey says, why did you feel you had to take these drugs? Jane says, otherwise it would be too real. I wanted to. I don't know. And then she's crying again. He said, I wanted to feel like it would make things easier. I guess they say earlier, but easier. Did you ever do hotel nights without drugs? She says twice. Once with Paul. She's mentioned Paul multiple times now. Comey says, why didn't you take drugs that time then? She says, I didn't want to do that to my body. But it's real, too real. So I asked Sean for a pill. Did he give you a pill? Yes, I felt better. So the second time, she says, I didn't, so she didn't take drugs twice. Once it was Paul. Maybe this was with Paul. The second time, she says her partner was taking too many pills, so she wanted to stay sober. Jane says, he said, I'll do 30 days without drugs, but let's have one last sobriety party at the L'Ermitage. Comey says, how did it last? Jane says, too long, 18 hours. AUSA says, what happened? Jane says, the first guy, the second guy, I wasn't feeling too well. I threw up. I told Sean I threw up. Comey says, what did you say? He said, that's good. Now be ready for the third guy. Holy shit. Nah, Diddy's a demon. Diddy's a demon. Diddy's a demon, chat. Diddy is a motherfucking demon. She fucked two dudes, and she's throwing up. Diddy says to her, hold on, girl. We got to get to the third nigga. Wow. Does anyone know somebody with this type of kink? By the way, this type of kink, if it's consensual, there's nothing wrong with it. We could call it weird. But there's people that are cuckolds, and that is normal in certain precincts. Does anybody know anybody who is into this type of stuff? Because it's a little bit alarming for me. Remember I said that with Cassie? I was theorizing. I said, like, he never treated, I believe, Kim Porter like this. So I said something must have happened with Cassie that he lost all respect for her and wanted to just denigrate her, disrespect her, and demean her. But I'm actually backing up off that point. Maybe that's not how he looked at it. He didn't look at it as demeaning and degrading and everything like that. Because look, he was with Cassie for 11 years. He met her when she was 19. Look at this woman here. This woman is in her 30s. She's already a baby mama for another lit person. It's impossible that he's just trying to like punish this. He doesn't have history with her like that. Or maybe he's doing it. I don't know. Maybe he's doing it because he don't like 50. Nah, but that don't sounds like he genuinely enjoys this shit, right? I told Sean I just threw up. What did he say? He said, that's good. What? He said, that's good. Now be ready for the third guy. He's here. How did you feel? I felt disgusted. I was repulsed. I was too mad at myself. Hold on one second. Oh, never mind. Okay. Hold on. Okay. She said, I was mad at myself. I let myself get it. I was mad I let myself get into this. Comey said this would be a good time to break. So they did break. And they broke in an hour. Then they came back. During the break, Combs in an animated conversation with Ignifilo, Shapiro on Steel, he's talking with his hands. So Diddy is, again, we've heard this multiple times. Diddy is like really quarterback in his own defense. He's always talking to his defense attorneys. And apparently, from what we've heard about how court looks, while they're in court, they are, while they're questioning witnesses, they'll look back at Diddy. And if Diddy be like, they'll let the witness go. But if, it's like they're almost looking at Diddy to say, should we keep grilling? Should we keep going? So they're doing a lot of things for the amusement of Diddy. Okay? Give me a second. Let me see. So just says, okay. Okay, so they take a break. They bring back Jane Doe and the jury. Okay? Give me a second. They take a break. All rise. It said, did Sean ever run out of drugs during a hotel night? She says, yes. They said, what happened? He would call one of the assistants or the butlers to bring more drugs. Sometimes he even called security. Comey says, what assistants? He'll call Frank or he'll call John. AUSA says, let me show you a photo of Brendan. Ooh, remember Brendan? Y'all remember Brendan? They called him the drug mule for Diddy. So he was a former basketball player.
He was liking her too, and he probably could sense that she was really liking him, fall in love. And Puffy told her, I really like you, but I'm seeing multiple women. Right up front, right off the rip. Puffy told her. She testified to this on the stand. Puffy told her to her grill, to her face, I really like you, but I'm seeing multiple women. It ain't just you. I'm seeing her over there. I got her over there. I'm dating the honey over there. I got the honey over. I'm dating a bunch of y'all. Puffy told her to her face, to her grill. I'm dating a bunch of y'all. Dating a bunch of y'all. Jane Doe testified, I only wanted to date Puffy. But I was cool with that. The fact that he was dating a bunch of women, I'm cool with that. She said that. I was okay with that. I still wanted to see him. I still wanted to chill with him. She dated Puffy all the way up until Puffy was arrested in September 2024. It was a private relationship. Then she moved. She was living somewhere on the East Coast, and then she moved to Los Angeles, and Puffy paid for the moving truck. Gave her $6,000 for the moving truck. Jane Doe testified that Puffy would hit her off with money just because. Take that right there. Put that in your pocket right there. Put some gas in your car, get you something to eat. The drugs that her and Puffy took, as she testified, was ecstasy, Molly, cocaine, and ketamine. The Molly used to enhance and make her sexually horny. The cocaine made her alert. But the ketamine, she ain't like the ketamine because it was like a hallucinogenic. She ain't like that. February to May of 2021, Puffy, like when they had sex, who's that right there? Naturalistic TV. Everybody go follow Naturalistic TV. Yo, get this video a thumbs up. How many I got? 295? I need 500 thumbs up, man. Double tap that screen. Double tap the screen. Puffy liked her to dress in provocative lingerie, and they both would watch porn while they were having sex for 12 to 24 hours with baby oil. He would put baby oil all over her body, and she would put baby oil all over Puffy's body. and they would change the light bulbs in the room from white to red. They would change the light bulb. They needed the red light bulb. Jane Doe testified, I loved the sexual experiences with Puff. They felt intense, and I loved Puffy very much. I love Puffy very much. I love him very much. May 2021, Jane Doe, we would be watching pornography and we would have these fantasy conversations. And Puffy suggested or asked me if I wanted to role play with other men. Puffy said, do you want that? Can you imagine that? And her and Puffy had been awake for 24 hours. And then Puffy told her, I can make this happen if you want it. Puffy said, I can make that happen tonight. She said, tonight? Then Jane Doe said, I bet. Make it happen tonight. Let's do it. Jane Doe agreed. She is of age, of sound body, mind, and spirit. She's a consenting adult. She said, all right, bet. Then they went to a hotel room in Miami, and two of Puffy's assistants set up the room. Then Puffy told her, there's a guy coming for sexual things. Puffy walked out and was talking to a man. She could hear him. And then a dude walked in named Don. He was a male escort from the company called Cowboys and Angels. I need 500 thumbs up, man. 425, I need 75 more. Double tap that screen, get a video a thumbs up. I stood up, Don came in, the male escort came in, I stood up, took off my robe, and I started dancing with my lingerie. Don began touching me, and I began touching Don. And Puffy is standing right there, butt naked, watching, masturbating. Me and Don are doing foreplay. I performed oral sex on Don for a long time. While I'm performing oral sex on Don, Puffy is talking and being real positive. Then I, Jane Doe, moved me and Don to the bedroom. Then I asked Puffy for a condom. Puffy said, these guys are safe, some of the cleanest people. But then Puff gave Don a condom, and her and Don had sex for a while, and Puff is watching. Puff is watching. Don left. After Don left, her and Puffy made love, and Jane Doe said, we were happy. We were happy. Don left. Don left, her and Puffy had sex, and she said we were happy. Then she said Then she said, I left. How many? There I go, 512. Share this video with your girlfriend. Share this video with your main man. Share it with your cousin, with your uncle. Share it with somebody close in your life. Jane Doe left, and Jane Doe testified on the stand, under oath, under direct examination by the Assistant U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of New York, Miss Maureen Comey. When I got home, I felt exhilarated. It was fun. It was taboo. It was sexy. It was crazy. That night opened up a Pandora's box. A door was open that I couldn't shut. After that night, 90% of the time, I slept with other men. I didn't want to. I only wanted to sleep with Puff. We didn't do it the next time, and I was agreeable. Puff always suggested it, and it kept happening. I told Puff in writing and verbally that I didn't want to have sex with other men. So Jane Doe testifies on the stand that now she's really only wanting to have sex with Puff, but he keep suggesting they do this escort thing, and she ain't with it no more. She really love him, but she only doing it because she want to please him. She want to make him happy. Same thing Cassie said when Cassie was up on the stand. So she went to Puff, and she was like, yo, Puff, check this out. I don't want to do this no more, man. You understand? I don't want to do this no more. You know, I don't want to, I don't want to do this no more. But she said she felt obligated to keep doing it. She kept doing it because she felt obligated to do it because Puffy was paying her rent. Because Puffy was paying her rent. But then she said also that Puffy told her, cool, if you don't want to be with me no more, because she was saying like, I can't do this no more, I don't want to be with you no more, you know what I'm saying? Puffy said, cool. I'ma pay your rent for 3 more months, and then that.
My bad. Mutademics again. There's such a thing called financial coercion. Okay, now the jury's gonna have to make up their mind on this. To what level is it financial coercion when, like, these people are sticking around because of the big bucks? Like, you know what I mean? Again, let me ask you a question. People always have this little hypothetical question. Yeah, what would you do for $1 billion? Would you do this? Like, these are questions where you're not being forced to do it. Do you want the money? Again, when I look at financial coercion, I think about people who don't have a place to live, don't have any other means, don't have food to eat, don't have basic necessities. If you're doing a little strange shit, or you're doing a little bit of strange for a little piece of change, but the piece of change ends up being $20,000 to $30,000 a month, like, how much could we believe that you had no choice? Because at that point, we start saying, well, you're addicted to the lifestyle. And if you say, no, it doesn't matter about how much money, and that this person was, you know, in essence, if you ask me, they're chasing luxury. They want to live like a baller. They want to live an over-the-top lifestyle. If that's what's going on, right? If that's what's going on, is it really financial coercion or someone's making a choice? Because if you then say it's financial coercion, I then ask you this. Well, if somebody robbed the bank, can't they use that as the reason why they robbed the bank? Yeah, I needed to get millions of dollars because I wanted to have this lifestyle. That's my reason. And now, granted, you're still guilty of robbing a bank, but in trying to understand why they would do it, and I don't know if that was a good analogy or not, trying to explain that maybe your actions or you feeling like you were forced to do something because you were used to a lot of money. I don't know. Like, I think financial coercion got to stop at some point. Now, here's the thing. It's still going to be iffy because even if it's $10,000 a month for the apartment, he's controlling a necessity where she lives. Now, granted, she could probably go afford a $2,000 apartment, a $2,000 a month apartment, but she wanted her $10,000 a month apartment, right? I don't know.
That's it. You go your separate way. You go your separate way starting today. We ain't got to be together. I'm going to pay your rent for another 3 months, and then we done. We through. Because I'm not going to pay the rent for somebody that I'm not with. I'm not going to be paying your rent and me and you ain't together. That's what Puff told her. Who that right there with that super chat? Glenn Burton, thank you for that super chat. Shout out to Glenn. I ain't gonna keep paying your rent and we ain't together. So cool, let's not be together. You go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm gonna pay your rent for the next 3 months when we ain't together. But then on the 4th month, you on your own. When they said that, Puffy's lawyer jumped up and said, sidebar, 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 sidebar. Puffy lawyer jumped up and said that. I gotta watch my back down here because a lot of the other reporters and YouTubers, they don't like me down here. So I gotta watch my back. I might have to get into it with somebody down here.
I'm ready to slap a nigga.
I don't want to, but I will though.
I'm ready to slap a nigga, man.
So they come back from the sidebar. So Puffy is paying Jane Doe's rent from April 2023 to September of 2024. Now
here's the thing about 50 Cent baby mom. If she wanted to get on OnlyFans, y'all think she was freaked out and maybe enjoying some of this shit? Huh? By the way, thank you, T, for donating over there to Unk. He says, yo, the Academy, we up. Sidebar.
They get into what's known, Cassie described them as freak-offs.
She called it hotel
Jane
nights.
Doe describes them as hotel nights.
There you go.
And she says, I like to be beautiful for Puff. And Puff liked that I like being beautiful for him. And he liked me being beautiful. In 2021, she would get her nails done, go to the gym, get a tan, get her hair ready, all of that for Puff. Miss Comey, Assistant U.S. Attorney, asked her, what was your source of income during this time? She said, Puffy, and I'm getting child support.
Wow. So she's living off two men. 50 paying the child support, and Diddy's giving her allowance for the freak offs.
Her and Puffy moved into a house together.
Really?
And Puffy wired her $20,000 to put some furniture in the crib. She called him and said, yo, we need some furniture. We ain't got no furniture. Puffy wired her 20,000. Go get some furniture. Then she said Puffy used to wire her 5,000, 10,000 just because.
Damn.
He give her 5,000, 10,000 just because. In 2021, one of Jane Doe's friends told her about doing OnlyFans. Jane Doe went to Puff and told Puff, I want to do OnlyFans. Puffy, he ain't like that. He was like, nah. He said, let's give it some time. But she said her friend made $4 million in a year doing OnlyFans. And she was gonna do, Jane Doe was gonna do OnlyFans, bikini, lingerie, and light nudity. And she wanted Puffy's approval. He was like, nah. The lease to the house that she was living in was in her name, and the rent to the house that she leased in 2021 was $10,000 a month. That was the rent.
I can't buy the house.
And she told the assistant U.S. attorney, I wanted a better living space to feel more comfortable. So she went and rented a place for $10,000 a month. 10,000. It's hot out here, y'all.
Go ahead,
I still look money though. Still look good though. Still look good though.
Yo, Uncle's
And
jokes.
on these hotel nights, Cassie called them freak-offs. Jane Doe calls them hotel nights. She says they would do them in New York, Miami, and LA, and they would use 24 bottles of baby oil
Per night.
in one hotel night.
That's crazy. That's crazy, that shit.
This morning I came in. Jane Doe is back on the stand. She's recalling a time at the Waldorf in Los Angeles where she went 3 rounds with an escort and she was high on ecstasy. And she said that Puffy gave her the ecstasy. She crying on the stand. She got a box of tissue right here, and all she doing is crying. The whole time. Now, at this point, the assistant U.S. attorney is leading her in the questions and answers. Most likely, and we're going to probably find out on the cross-examination, that she probably met with the federal prosecutors this morning, yesterday, the day before, in order to prep her for her testimony. She's leading, I'm high on ecstasy. I did 3 rounds with this escort for 18 hours, and Puffy gave me the ecstasy. Puffy's attorneys jump up, say, sidebar, sidebar. Puffy lawyer jump up, say, sidebar. Let's slow this down. Now, after this particular hotel night, Jane Doe testified on the stand that after the escort left, her and Puff was hanging out, and she took it upon herself to make sure that Puffy was clean, that he was showered. She would cook food for him.
Damn.
She would give him a massage. She would put his favorite TV show on for him. And then she would cuddle with him.
I am not your mother.
She would cuddle with him. prosecution pulled up some text messages and put them on the screen, but we can't see, being that she's testifying anonymously, we can't see none of the exhibits that they put up on the screen. Jane Doe texted Puffy some sexually explicit text messages. She texted him another text message saying that I wanted to have sex with someone else a lot. That was one of the text messages. She told Puff in the text message, I want to have sex with someone else a lot. The prosecutor asked her, well, why would you say that if you said you didn't want to do no more hotel nights? Jane Doe said, I wanted to turn Puffy on. But then right after that, she come back and say, but I didn't want to have sex with other men. On November the 9th, 2021, she texts Puff, I'm horny for you. Puffy texts her back, do you want to do the raccoon? Do you want to do the raccoon? You want to do the raccoon? Jane Doe then text Puffy again and said, I want to suck Paul's dick while you give me that strong stroke game. Jane Doe then texts Puffy again, that's all I'm supposed to have is sucking a hard dick while another dick is inside of me. I'm just telling you, man, this is in court. And the assistant U.S. attorney said those same words. Everybody in the court here. The assistant U.S. attorney said that you had other conversations with Puff about not wanting to do hotel nights. She's still crying with the tissue. September 23rd, 2023. Puffy's been paying her rent for 5 months. She felt obligated to continue to do the hotel nights because if she didn't, Puffy would take away the house. That's what she testified. New Year's Eve 2022, her and Puffy did a hotel night that lasted for 3 days. The shortest hotel night was 12 hours, but the average hotel night was 24 to 30 hours. She would need caffeine, water, ecstasy, and protein shakes in order to last with all of these hotel nights. She would use ecstasy, some pink powder called Tussie, Molly, weed, and cocaine, her and Puff together.
100%. That was my thought.
She says she never saw the male escorts taking drugs, and that her rule, my rule as Jane Doe, was that I never let the male escorts take drugs because I didn't want them to be out of control while they were on my body. She was asked, what does ecstasy do? You get a surge of sexual energy, you're turned on, and you're happy. What's up, man? She tried to do a hotel night without drugs with this dude named Paul, but she didn't like it because it was too real. And and that she was tired of doing all the drugs in her body. So she tried to do one without getting high, but she ain't like it. But in the middle of it, she told Puffy, give me an ecstasy. And she took an ecstasy and finished with Paul. Gonna give you some drugs. Go to my house in Beverly Hills. She went to the house. Security gave her a package. She put the package in her luggage. She checked her luggage at the Miami airport. She flew to Miami, got off the plane. Puffy picked her up, or the car service picked her up. They brought her to Puffy's crib. She took the drugs out of the luggage, gave the drugs to Puffy in his bathroom. This is the testimony. Puffy opened up the package and there was drugs in it. This is the level of detail that the assistant U.S. attorney, the prosecution, is walking her through, because the ladies and gentlemen of the jury were right here. She did that twice for Puff. Now, they start reaching out to entertainers. So, this is around 2021, 2022. Her and Puffy are watching porn, and they're watching this one specific dude on porn who's an entertainer. And it was Jane Doe said it was my idea to reach out to the entertainer. So they reach out to this dude called Cabral Williams from Atlanta. His nickname was the Chef because in conversations with Jane Doe found out he liked to cook, and his porn name is Sly. She said that she felt like she couldn't get away. First, she said it was her idea to reach out to the entertainer, but then she came right back and said the prosecution led her into saying, well, I felt like I couldn't get away, so I figured I'd choose an entertainer instead of some strangers in the male escorts. So her and Puffy was watching Cabral, a couple of his porn videos back to back. And her and Puffy talked about the size of his jointski joint. Then Puffy asked her, do you want that dick? Jane Doe said, I sent Cabral a message on Instagram. I DM'd him, he responded. I texted him I'm a fan of your work and that we should meet up one day. Then she FaceTimed with Cabral. Puffy was there. She FaceTimed with Cabral. They talked about sex. She's showing Cabral her kitty cat. Cabral showing her his jointski joint. And Puffy got the Instagram FaceTime on the phone, and he playing it on the TV. He watching this. Puffy watching this. Jane Doe said, I made Cabral's arrangements for him to fly from Atlanta to LA. I booked Cabral's flight. I booked this flight. I made the arrangements. But the prosecution always come back and say, were you reimbursed? And she always say, yeah. Who reimbursed you? Sean. That's what she always say. When I met Cabral, he was really sweet. I had butterflies. He had butterflies. I was nervous, and he was cute and nervous. That was the first time that I was together with Cabral in LA. And before he came, I told Cabral I had a partner. He was like, cool. We met at the La Mertage in Beverly Hills. That's a hotel. I was in a lingerie outfit. I had baby oil on me. This is Jane Doe testifying. I was dancing. I was dancing for Cabral. I was doing foreplay. And then we had sex. And Puffy was masturbating. He was happy. And he was saying a lot of positive things. I saw Cabral many times. Jane Doe, invited him. I invited him. Then she come right back and say, I didn't want to, but it was safe. I met with him in LA, and then I met with him in New York at the Trump International. Puffy always used Trump brands. He patronizes Trump business. Jane Doe said, I paid for his ticket to come up here. Jane Doe, were you reimbursed? Yes. By who? Sean. That's what the prosecutor said. We paid Cabral anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000. Most of the times it was in cash. If we didn't have no cash, we sent him a cash out. The prosecutor said, whose cash was it? Sean. All right. So I got to go back inside. And there's another entertainer. Jane Doe contacts another entertainer. But I'm going to do that when I come out this afternoon. They're going to go to 5 o'clock. They're going to go to 5 o'clock. So I'll be out here around 5 o'clock, 5:15 right there. Put the bell on, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. What you want?
Day 18 of the Diddy trial, and we are listening to the tragic tale of Jane, which is the pseudonym of the second of Diddy's girlfriends, testified that he sexually exploited them. I am Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I am in the Southern District of New York, sitting on those steps right now, a courthouse which I have practiced in personally, and I come here every day for the purposes of trying to provide you with a legal perspective of how the state is trying to press forward its charges against Sean Combs, aka Diddy.
My bad. We were just looking for some other perspective
From those charges. For the last day or so, starting from yesterday afternoon and continuing into this morning, we've been hearing from Jane, which is the pseudonym of a girlfriend of Diddy from 2021 through 2024. The court has been very protective of her privacy and taking multiple steps, such as not allowing anyone but the jury and the counsel for both sides to see much of any of the evidence that's been presented so far, in a desperate effort to try and protect her anonymity, even though between you and me, many people in the viewing room seem to identify who she is, because she's not someone who is an unknown. And accordingly, a lot of people have speculated that they have identified who she is. I'm certainly not going to reveal that in the interest of trying to protect her privacy.
So he's also in court. He can't say anything because if they point out that he's in court, even if it's an overflow room and he doxes this woman because he's in court, they're gonna admonish him, number one, but number two, make sure he won't get any more access to the trial.
See, I'm certainly not going to reveal that, but the testimony we've heard about from her story is eerily similar to the testimony we heard from Cassie Ventura about the developmental relationship, which starts as a whirlwind romance, and a couple of months into that romance, after they get wined and dined and fall head over heels for Diddy, that he introduces them to the concept of a freak-off. Although when Jane talks about it, she doesn't call it a freak-off. Her reference to it is generally hotel nights. That's how they've been referring to it in the context of Jane's specific testimony. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same as what we heard freak-offs being with Cassie. The experience is marathon sexual encounters wherein Diddy would bring in an escort or some other stranger, sometimes a porn star, and she would perform involving extensive foreplay with tons of baby oil, and then after she would perform one encounter, another encounter, one session, two sessions, three sessions, she would alternatively go into a suite side room with Diddy and they would engage in sex there. Both Cassie and Jana testified that the motivations for them engaging in this was they wanted alone time with Diddy. Now, I should say this, as far as how she's testifying, she seems completely sympathetic. Everything about her testimony, at least on direct so far, seems to ring very true. She seems heartbroken when she talks about the sexual encounters that she says she felt obligated to perform in order to please her partner. But therein lies the rub, which is a little bit of a difficulty for the state that we should anticipate that the defense is going to be bringing up a lot on cross. Specifically, that she repeatedly and routinely will refer to her partner, i.e. Sean Combs, that she felt obliged to perform to please her partner. And the notion of pleasing her partner seems to be a very important element to her motivation, which makes you question whether or not that will satisfy 18 U.S.C. 1591, which is the sex trafficking charge. I believe it's a third of the charges that is leveled against Diddy is for allegedly sex trafficking Jane. And the question is that really coercion if in fact she's not forced but makes a choice? The defense from opening arguments on has stated that it was her choice. Well, the state is trying to try and show it's not her choice by introducing two other factors with respect to Jane, specifically that he was getting her drugged up, that she had only taken drugs, ecstasy, twice in her life before she ever met Diddy, and as soon as they started even dating, well before the hotel nights were even introduced, Diddy started getting her involved with using ecstasy on a regular basis. Over a week-long period, she said she had used ecstasy 9 times, which was, and on the first day of that, it was the 3rd time she ever used it. Over the next week, she uses another 9 to 10 times. And that she had spent a week with him in Turks and Caicos and another 6 days in the Bahamas, and that during that time this girlfriend was involved in using X and Molly and pink powder that she wasn't sure what it was, and sometimes cocaine, and we started hearing about the litany of drugs that Diddy kept providing to her. Now, she talks about how she preferred using drugs when she was engaging in these encounters, certainly the later encounters. The initial encounter she looked at as being a sexually adventurous thing, and she talks glowingly about how that was, she felt like she was doing something good, sacrificing herself for her partner and making him happy. And then afterwards, she was really pleased with the fact that she thought she had done something for him that was relatively unique. Obviously, she knew nothing about his history with Cassie and how he similarly exploited her, at least according to Cassie's testimony. So she seemed very proud and pleased with herself that she stepped outside her normal boundaries to do that, and was unaware that 90 to 100% of the rest of her sexual encounters with Sean would be in the context of these hotel nights, at least according to her testimony. So one way that the state is likely trying to press on the fact that she was compelled and that 18 U.S.C. 1590, that element of 18 U.S.C. 1591 has been satisfied, has been through the use of drugs. Another is through financial coercion. Diddy was taking care of her, put himself as far as taking care of her rent in a $10,000 a month apartment that he rented, that she took up in LA. She was living on the East Coast when she first met him. She flies out to LA. He puts her on a $10,000 a month rent, and he's covering those charges. That seems to be the extent of the compensation that she was getting from Diddy. And they try and paint him as being controlling. That at a certain point, she heard about some of her girlfriends who were making a great deal of money during the early halcyon days of OnlyFans. One model girlfriend of hers, she testified, had gotten $4 million. She went to Diddy, said, hey, I'd like to do that. Not that she would engage in sexual encounters, which seemed to be de rigueur on OnlyFans, but that she would basically be doing bikini modeling and lingerie and things of that nature, and was hoping that she could make a great deal of money that way. But he said no. Well, why did you agree to go along with that? Well, I felt that it was important from before I do something.
Do you think Diddy would say no because he wanted to financially control her? Because it's hard for me to understand this idea that Diddy likes his woman being fucked by other men, likes other men doing things with his woman and even adoring his woman, but then he would get mad and shut down the idea of her being on OnlyFans. Maybe it was a control thing where he's like, yo, if I'm not in control of this, I don't want it. I don't like that.
Like that I get approval from my boyfriend. Is that financial coercion? I guess that's a jury question. I'd like you to weigh in the comments. Do you think that's financially coercive? Do you think that using the drugs makes it coercion? These are questions that the jury is certainly going to have to grapple with. Now, we should anticipate that during the balance of her testimony, we will start to hear about physical abuse from Diddy to Jane. We haven't heard about that yet. However, in opening statements, the state made reference to the fact that the most recent assault by Diddy of his girlfriend was a year ago. It was less than a year ago in 2024. So we should anticipate that we are going to hear her talk about physical violence, and that the state will try to use that as another element to show that she felt coerced into engaging into these hotel nights. But the struggle here is going to be real. It's going to be very difficult for the state to try and say that she's completely compulsive, that she's coerced and forced into these encounters, when in fact she's saying that she wants to please her partner, and she says it a lot, that she feels it's her duty, and she talks about him still lovingly. Well, an awful tragic story that we heard about before we got to lunch here was about her birthday in 2023, when Diddy was having her have sex with someone who was not one of the regular performers, and that she really didn't want to do it, and she felt like, it's my birthday, I don't want to be doing this. And then when she started asking for a condom, Diddy was standing behind this guy and gave her a look which she read to be him mouthing, don't you effing dare ask for a condom. But then he turns and hands a condom to the guy, and he ended up putting it on. But after he handed it to him, he walked away in disgust, as if he wasn't even going to bother watching, because he was upset about the idea that she wants him to use a condom. So the idea that the state wants us to take from her testimony is certainly that he's a monster, that he is a complete dirtbag, and he treats women like awful garbage. And it's hard to really come to any other conclusion. In fact, even the state's opening statements pretty much paint him as being a monster and an awful, terrible human being. The question ultimately comes down as to whether or not the state can convict him of these charges and convince a jury that these women had no free will to choose to say no, especially when so much of their testimony seems to play into the idea that they just wanted to earn time with Diddy and were willing to do anything to do it, including making these choices. It's a conclusion that a lot of people who are watching are drawing from their testimony. Not everyone. It really depends on who you ask. It'll be interesting to see if they can get 12 jurors to unanimously agree that these women were coerced. Again, we're still expecting a lot more direct testimony from Jane. She probably won't even finish her direct today. Maybe at the end of today she will, because they're lengthening out the testimony today. But we should expect that the cross-examination and redirect will go out through Monday and into Tuesday. That's certainly a likely possibility that's being anticipated by the courts. So that's what we have so far. The one charge that perhaps the state is doing better at is the RICO charges. They're trying to establish the predicate charges and the number of crimes that Diddy and...
Okay. Nothing from Lauren. Let's look quickly before we jump back into the tweets. Law and crimes.
We really need.
Here we go.
If she were to.
Here we go. Here we go, Chad.
Haven't seen much of that today. And
Drill asked me a good question. This is actually a pretty interesting conversation or thought. They said if 50 had made sure his baby mama had money and that she wasn't, clearly 50 was only trying to pay her child support. Do we know how much money 50 was paying her, by the way? 50 Cent child support, Daphne. Do we know how much? Oh, yeah. I remember it was initially set at $40,000 a month. Then it got reduced to $6,700 a month. Okay? Yeah, that's a drastic difference. Now, let's think about this. If 50 was throwing her, like, say, 20 bands to have a lifestyle or to fund a lifestyle for her that she could be comfortable, would she do this? I'm going to say yes. I still think she would do it. Number one, I think she yearned to be with someone who was a mogul. She had a baby with 50 Cent. 50 Cent after a while. Remember, there was some domestic violence stuff, if you guys don't know. I don't know if you guys remember that. Then 50 and her, 50 Cent, domestic violence, Daphne Joy. Right? It's like back in the day shit. Where is it at? There was some domestic violence shit. All this stuff is pointing to the recent stuff, but like it was way back. Like it said that 50 broke some like stuff. You know what I mean? Is it this? Yeah. In 2013, apparently he broke in like some doors or like a TV or something like that. Didn't really say he hit her. Well, actually, she did say he hit her, but also he broke a bunch of property. Okay, the damages, that was about $7,000. I think that she was with 50. 50 don't want her no more, or she don't want 50, but she want to upgrade. She want another dude that's in the industry. She can't go date another rapper. You go from 50 Cent to like, I don't know, to I can't say Tony Yayo, but like to somebody who's just not that popping. Women want to be in the same caliber or upgrade. And I think Diddy was one of the few people. Did you see what Cassie said when Cassie said, there's a moment when Cassie and Capricorn Clark, I believe, were talking, and they were trying to get Cassie they were trying to convince her. I think it was Capricorn Clark, or maybe Mia. Maybe it was Mia. No, it was Mia, actually. And Mia says to Cassie, yo, Cassie, you should date somebody else. And Cassie's mind immediately says, who the hell am I supposed to date? Jay-Z's already got a wife. He already got Beyonce. And it kind of tells you that these women were not willing to downgrade in lifestyle, or men. They wanted the creme de la creme. They wanted the top guy. They were not going to leave Diddy and get with like, I don't know, like a regular rapper or a regular person in the music industry. So even Cassie herself, when she was, encouraged to leave Diddy, her first thought was, and go where? Like, who can I date? The other eligible person that I would want or care to entertain, he already has a wife. So it goes to show the mentality of these women. So even with Daphne Joy, if she leaves Diddy, right? If she leaves Diddy, or she leaves 50, she wants somebody who's also larger than life. And I would argue that, I still don't think Diddy and his accomplishments. Who do you think is bigger in music overall? I think 50. I think 50's 50, right? But Diddy is like a mogul. Catalog and Bad Boys spanned and lasted generations. Yeah. So I think she wanted to be the main girl of Diddy. And trying to be the main girl of Diddy came with some compromises. I think she probably thought, all right, we're only going to do this one time. Now, it's kind of interesting. Like with Cassie, it looks like with both situations, Diddy would kind of just keep floating out like, this is a game Diddy would use. He would start talking to these girls and start saying to them, yo, you got any weird fantasies or you got any type of like, out of the box fantasies, you try to get them to come clean, then he would tell them his and be like, you know what? And I think he was always trying to get these girls into it by acting like it's the first time. Like, you know what would be dope? It'd be dope if like I could watch you fuck. Because when I'm fucking you, I imagine how it looks. So like, maybe if you fuck like somebody else, and they're probably thinking he never did it before. Because I don't think, I'm guessing with all this, I don't think he's telling these women that, oh, this is what I do. But then again, you don't think like after years, these women probably have heard the rumors, right? They don't think they have heard the rumors? And I think the way how he was even talking to Daphne, I think he was a straight shooter at that point. I think he felt he messed up with Cassie because Cassie got so emotionally involved, it led to other things. Cassie was starting to become an emotional wreck. So when it comes to Daphne, he tells her straight up, yo, I got mad at other girls. You could get down with it though. I'll take care of you. But I just gotta let you know I got other women. He wasn't telling Cassie that. He was telling Cassie that, yo, I don't rock with Kim Porter like that anymore romantically. He was hiding other girls from Cassie. You know? Court is back. Let me try to get back into this chat. Okay, this is the afternoon session. Let's get into it. Okay, so they break and then they're back, okay? Comey says, this afternoon we're going to be showing some explicit exhibits. So these are going to be pornographic images. They're going to be in a binder. So not to be on the council's screens, but council will come up and see them at any time. The judge says, okay. Bring in the witnesses and the jury. They say, all rise. Comey says, have you seen this man? Jane says, yes. Sean brought him to our hotel in L.A. I was in a robe and lingerie, the whole wardrobe I usually had. AUSA says, what happened in the living room of the suite? Jane says, I knew this was something I couldn't fake. AUSA says, well, what do you mean you couldn't fake it? She says, I was repulsed by him. I tried for 30 minutes. Then I told Sean, can I talk to you in the bedroom? There I told him, I can't. I tried again, but no. I told Sean, I'm sorry. How did Diddy respond? Diddy was agitated. Then another man came. Comey says, did Sean talk to you first? No. Who's this? That's a man I met with in New York. I told him I didn't want to go to New York if it was just to set me up with a man. He said, no, one-on-one. So I went. So apparently she's now saying multiple times here that Diddy is telling her, no, me and you, we're going to do our thing one-on-one. And then when she goes to do her thing with Diddy, or she'll travel, and by the way, this is help proven sex trafficking. I'm going to be honest. Yo, if you lie to a girl or you promise something and you renege, that becomes sex trafficking. It does. Especially if you promise a sexual advance, a favor, or promise an act. Yeah, I could see it because again, it's interstate sex, sex trafficking at that point, and also you remember by force, fraud, or coercion, like you're lying. So if you lie to someone, right, like the idea that you fly somebody out and it's sex trafficking, that's not true. If you tell somebody, hey, I'm flying you out for $300, I'm flying you out and I want to fuck you and I want to pay you $300. And she's like, okay, I'll come fuck you for $300. Now, the difference between that and the prostitution charge is that she flies out, she sees you, and you fuck her and you don't pay her the money. Then that kind of opens the door to what sex trafficking is, right? Especially if, there's other mitigating factors where maybe she told you like, hey, I need this money for rent, this and third. You're like, all right, cool, come get it for rent. That means, you probably coerced her and also you use fraud to basically acquire sex. And especially if it's, they call it commercial sex acts, right? So it has to be, it's kind of like hazy, at least for me, about what commercial sex acts are. I don't want to Google it, though. It might bring up porn. Anyway, let me Google it over here. What are commercial